writing a blog post about concepts and how concepts must dissolve as we come into an experience of what's true and where the Course is aiming, A Course in Miracles is aiming, or any spiritual practice. All concepts must dissolve in the experience of what is definitionless. And that's helpful in the sense that as we do this investigative work, as we do the self-inquiry, when we recognize that we have an investment in a concept, we can ask the question whether or not we are willing to let that concept go. It doesn't mean we have to do anything about the concept, doesn't mean we have to actually let it go ourselves, but are we willing to question it and ask in ourselves, can we let this go? And see what happens. If there's a charge or there's a fear, there's still something stuck. We're still believing ourselves to be separate. And this is seemingly important to talk about because A Course in Miracles is flooded with concepts. It's got over 1,000 pages full of concepts. Well, and a lot of spiritual teachings have different concepts, but in particular, A Course in Miracles. And I'm sharing from my own experience and questioning the concepts for which I've held in mind. We can start off with the idea and the concept of being a student and a teacher of A Course in Miracles. What does that really mean? Those concepts, as well as many other concepts, are what holds the self-image of myself together. This is how I define myself. This is who I am. I'm a student. I'm a teacher of A Course in Miracles, along with my age, my body, my sex, along with comparisons. So I know myself to be either good-looking or bad-looking relative to other people. I know myself to be short relative to most men who are an average of 5'10", and I'm 5'7". So we use concepts to define ourselves and our self-image. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's something very brilliant about it, especially when we start to investigate the concept of forgiveness. Here we have a concept that is used to undo all concepts. The brilliance of the mind's capacity to make for a dream, and within the dream, offer up a tool to take us out of the dream. Same could be said with the concept of A Course in Miracles. It's showing up in the dream to take us out of the dream. It's beautiful. But in this process, those concepts have to be looked at, because in the experience of truth, we can't take anything with us. And from a practical standpoint, again, it doesn't mean we have to do anything. It's just an invitation to self-inquiry. What's happening within the mind? Where's the mind going or being led to? Is there an unconscious tendency to grip or hold on to a concept, or we don't want to let go of a concept? A Course in Miracles, much of the text is geared to exposing the ego's thought system, not for the purpose of making the ego real, or to say that the ego has this separate existence or is is somehow sourced in some way, or a source of anything, but so that we don't underestimate the influential, we don't underestimate how the thought system can influence the mind. And so, as we question concepts, we'll question even the holiest concepts, so that we can recognize how the ego uses even that to sustain a sense of separation. Concepts like Jesus must be let go as well. That may not fall very soft on some ears. The mind immediately goes into, what? You're going to take Jesus away from me? No. Just the symbol, not where Jesus points. Just the symbol dissolves. Everything about the Jesus story also dissolves. The story dissolves. When our aim is truth, when we're going for direct experience, that means the story, and we're told over and over, time doesn't exist. But to come into the experience of really what that means is to say that the story itself is not in truth. But there's a brilliance to the story, just as there's a brilliance to the concept of forgiveness. There's a brilliance to the story of a person named Jesus. But how could there have been a person named Jesus if there's no time? It doesn't make sense. See? So it's either one or the other. Either there was a Jesus, in which case we believe that there is time, or there wasn't. What we can say, the best we can say, is that he exists now, because he's in mind now. And that's the only time he's ever been and always will be, is now. But we can't say that there was a 2,000 years ago. That is just a thought arising in the present moment of now. So we're going into an experience of truth, not just the conceptual idea of what we think truth is. And so this exploration into the concepts of, what do we believe? Do we believe in the stories? And if we do, that's fine. And this is not to take anything away. It may feel uncomfortable, certainly, even as I've explored the validity of the Jesus story, there's an uncomfortableness. Like, oh my God, who am I if I don't believe that he walked the earth 2,000 years ago? And again, it's not like, the mind tends to think that it's one or the other. So the mind thinks, well, if you're going to say that the story of Jesus isn't true, then none of it is true. And none of it is helpful. And that's not the message. The message is actually the complete opposite. There's this great appreciation and joy in how all of it is welcomed, and there's a viewpoint from which everything can be seen as working together, and everything can be seen as a beautiful movement, one movement. But it's all happening now. It's not happening outside of this. There's nothing outside of this period. And so this is an invitation to concepts, and to looking at them, and to investigate. A lot of times I look at social media and I'll read different people which seem to have different opinions on different concepts of the Course. What does it mean? Certain questions. And there's no lack of volunteers or positions or opinions that get expressed. I include myself in that pile, and that's okay. Again, it's part of the movement of all things. But there isn't truth in it. For the dreamer, there may be concepts and explanations that point or help the dreamer awaken, but there's no truth in it. The direct experience isn't in it, just as there is no, well, just as the Course is directing us to truth, the Course isn't truth. We're eventually asked to come with empty hands. Once the tool has been used, the tool, the investment in the tool, the attachment to the tool dissolves. It doesn't mean the tool actually even goes away. It may or may not go away. That's really irrelevant. It's just a question of whether or not there's still attachment to the tool. How do you tell if there's attachment to the tool? Well, if there's a charge when someone says that it's not truth. Oh, what do you mean A Course in Miracles is not truth? It is truth. Or if there's a charge to a particular section to the Course, or misunderstanding about the Course, if there is a dependency on the Course, if there's a belief that there's something to get from the Course. This was a big one for me. The idea that I'm going to get something from the Course, that the Course has something to offer me. And certainly that is what it appears like in the beginning. I wouldn't have done the Course if that wasn't what it was seemingly offering me. If it didn't have something to offer me, if there wasn't something to get, why even do the Course? But eventually it's seen that the Course really never had anything to offer. And that can be seen from two perspectives, because in one hand, there's the brilliance that I spoke about, which is the brilliance of the dream to use the tools to awaken the mind. But then from the other hand, from another perspective, you recognize that, it was always part of the script. Everything was perfect. There was actually no part of the script that was special. There's no part of the script that is special. That's huge. Because then really what that's saying is no part of our life story that's special. And there's no concept that's special. And so that really just brings it home for me. That's really the message of this video and the blog, which is no concept is to remain special in the experience for which is true. Truth, there's no specialness in truth. Although truth, the paradox is there's no specialness in truth. It is our natural inheritance. It is what's freely offered